Did we talk about Republican car-select Luke Letlow dying of COVID? What happens next there? Okay, well, what happens is they have a special election. They have a special election. That's what happens. But yeah, let me. Okay, I'm all fucked up. I spent 20 minutes and then I was just raging about and laughing at stuff instead of actually preparing for the show. Whoops-a-daisy. Whoops-a-daisy. All right, let's check this out. Started off with our CNN coverage, because why not, right?
We are getting some breaking news in now, Doctor. I want you to respond to. We're learning that Congressman-elect, his name is Luke Letlow from Louisiana, has passed away after being diagnosed with COVID-19. Letlow was only 41 years old. Yeah. It's a tragedy, and obviously our hearts are with his family. He's very young. But it emphasizes how serious this virus can be for people of any age, Doctor.
Yeah, so my heart does go out to Congressman-elect Letlow's family. Look, you know, we tend to think about the folks who die from this illness as being old and frail. And indeed, the majority of people are older. But 20% of the fatalities in the United States have been in folks under the age of 65. And if you look at people under the age of 45, even though death is relatively rare, in this country, 10,000 people under the age of 45 have died. 10,000 people. Yeah. 3 times as many deaths as on 9/11. So my heart goes out to the Congressman-elect's family. It's a terrible tragedy. But young people can die from this. So young and feel they're invincible need to understand that this virus can devastate their lives as well. It's a cautionary tale.
Terrible. Well, people see, well, you know, this person got it and they survived it and whatever, but there are people who get it and don't survive it, and there are people who don't have pre-existing conditions, people who are, you know, there's a photo of Congressman Letlow we put up on the screen there for people to see, just so you know.
So would you think this guy would die of COVID? Do you think this guy would die of COVID?
To reiterate this, CNN is confirming that incoming Congressman-elect Luke Letlow passed away after being diagnosed with COVID.
He hadn't committed enough horrible crimes to get the protection of Satan
John
yet,
Bell was releasing a statement saying, "It's with heavy hearts that the First Lady of Louisiana and I offer our condolences to Congressman-elect Letlow's family on the passing after his battle with COVID-19." 41 years old.
41
LA County emergency
years old. 41 years old. Now, if you troll through Letlow's his social media accounts, you know what you find? Luke Letlow's maskless campaign events surface after he dies of COVID. So I wonder, how many people did he kill? Because like most in-person political events, I don't know if you know this, chat, but they tend to be with the older crowd. Luke Letlow, elected to represent Louisiana's 5th congressional districts in a runoff election earlier this month, died of COVID-19 complications in Shreveport Hospital Tuesday night. He's survived. Letlow, 41, is survived by his wife and 2 children. And while a number of people are mourning him today, a number of people are also going online to post photos of maskless campaign events leading up to Letlow's December 18th diagnosis. By the way, so he was diagnosed on December 18th. Which means he was probably infected around December 12th, December 10th, December 14th. And he's only just dying today. So all the people who went to Christmas They're only just starting to feel sick today. The people that got infected on Christmas are just starting to feel sick today. So I have a question. I don't want to stick on the COVID stuff too long, but I because I know we're all thinking about it and we're all tracking it and we're all talking about it non-fucking stop.
That's praxis.
Reap what ya sow.
Thank you, Nosk, for the tier 1 for 2 months. We are now at 3,500 deaths a day, which means we're not going to see the Christmas and the New Year's party peak for another 2 weeks, another 10 days, another 2 weeks. And then we're going to be the real peak. The real peak. So we're at 3,500 a day. We're destroying 9/11. We're destroying 9/11 every day. We're not going to be to the peak so what are we going to peak at? 5,000, 10,000? How many people are going to be dying a day, do you think? How many people? So 400K deaths. Oh my God. 1 million is on the table. 1 million is on the table. Not 400K, 1 million. And wait till I tell you more about COVID-19 shit that's been pissing me off today. I don't like to talk about COVID-19 because we've been talking about it for a year straight. And so I like to talk about other fucking things because I know that all of us are constantly thinking about it, pissed off about it. But this one really pissed me off. This one is why this fucker and fuckers like him are why we're all sitting here. We're not all living our normal lives and watching the vaccine be rolled out to sick and elderly people first and blah, 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 blah. And we're mostly able to social distance and wear a mask and maybe we'd have events going on, but largely we would be living normal lives. No. People are just going to be, every hospital is going to be jammed in this country. That's the other scary part. You get sick, you're not going to go and get the best treatment for your condition. You're going to be triaged. Don't forget that the numbers we're getting are an undercount. There's a pretty wide consensus among the medical community that we're already past 400K. Well, we already know that there are 400,000 more deaths in 2019. So like 2 weeks ago, we already had 400,000 more deaths in 2020 than in 2019. So God knows what that number is now. Maybe it's 500,000 more deaths than 2019. Life expectancy is going down 3 years in 2020. American life expectancy is dipping 3 years. You'll get what's available, which is not much. And here's what I have to say. Every one of these people, okay, look at them. It's easy to call them idiots. It really is easy to call them idiots. But that's hurtful. That's not helpful. You know who the idiot is? Right here. Right here. Donald Trump, the Republican Party. Their fucking ghoul grifter media machine that props them up. They could have very easily said, wearing a mask is patriotic. We've got to fight the Chinese virus or whatever mind rot arguments that they would have made as conservatives. But no, they went out there and was like, oh, no man with a working dick will wear a mask. Then Donald Trump gets it. His ass gets helicoptered and he gets 80 fucking people working on him and he's injected with every single fucking experimental drug we have. This is my third day listening to your show. I turn it on at lunch and then listen to it while laying block the rest of the day. Great way to end my workday. Great content, bro. Thank you, buddy. That's great to hear. Okay, guys. And our economy is vital to the future of our state and our country. So while we've been cautious, and I think both the state and federal level have taken new... Okay, let's look at Luke Letlow's from his own mouth.
And I think both at the state and federal level, I think we've taken numerous precautions with COVID-19. We are now in a place where if we do not open our economy, we're in real danger. So while we've been...
He was one of those ghouls that was actively trying to kill you because he didn't want to give you money. He was happy to give money to the wealthy and the rich, but he doesn't want to give money to you. By the way, Mardi Gras last year was a super spreader event. Mardi Gras last year in New Orleans was a super spreader event. New Orleans faces a virus nightmare and Mardi Gras may be why. Letlow's own Twitter account shows multiple examples of the aspiring congressman gathering sans masks with supporters throughout his campaign. Does that look socially distanced to you, chat? Does that look socially distanced to you? How do they correlate from last year? Last year, yeah, that's how long COVID-19 has been spreading. Steph's is my name. COVID-19 has been going on for the better part of a year now. We're nearing on a year of COVID-19. When was the 19? December 2019 was when it started in Wuhan. In the United States, it really picked up in March of 2019. His Facebook is also testament to how his personal choices might have put him at greater risk for contracting coronavirus, including a documentation of a December 2nd meet and greet where he and some of his supporters are indoors and maskless together. He even showed himself voting maskless in a Facebook post for a December 5th runoff against another Republican candidate. Since some took to Twitter to drive the point home, in a week in which the U.S. experienced a record hospitalization is anticipating a new post-Christmas surge of COVID-19 cases. One person sharing the December 2nd Facebook photos observed, Ludlow held unmasked indoor events in the middle of a pandemic. He's lucky if the only death he causes... Oh, we know for a fact that's not true. And there is a... If you're an enterprising, young, investigative reporter, will you please go and contact Trace Letlow and see all the people he personally killed? I want to know who he killed. I want to know how many people he killed. I want to know. And Americans have a right to know. Who did Letlow kill? Would we have to look at Joe telling people to vote in a primary then too? Absolutely! Amazing Bird Show. If you were here in this stream back in March of last year, back in April and May of last year, I absolutely was like, shut down the motherfucking primaries, do 100% vote by mail. But Joe Biden wanted to make sure he got his win locked in. So he said, I'll kill a few thousand people by spreading COVID. It's important. I need to win my primary quickly. And so it continues and it continues. Look at this. Maskless, 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 maskless. People are like, Mike, why is America out of control? Look at the ages of these people. How many of these people are comorbidities? Old, obese, children. Not a mask. And not even a mask dangling on their hands. It's like they're in denial. At this point, it's safe to say that Republican brainworms are a comorbidity at this point. I absolutely need a study of death rates of Democrats versus Republicans. I need that study. Some epidemiologist, get your PhD studying the difference in mortality between being a registered Republican and a registered Democrat. Control every other variable but that. I want to know. I want to know. I guarantee you the Republicans have a higher mortality rate. I guarantee you. That would be worth a PhD. That would be a poli-sci plus epidemiologist PhD. That's a double fucking PhD right there. If I was in school right now for political science at a graduate or PhD level, I would be writing that as my thesis right now. It would be comorbidity of political identification in the United States of America, co-authored with some other person trying to get their PhD as an epidemiologist. And I would let them do all the work on the epidemiology shit, and I would do the work on the poli-sci shit. That would be a PhD right there. I just gave it away. Actually, don't do it. It's my idea. I will sue you. No. How could such a study be conducted? Would it be a self-report kind of thing? How can the dead self-report? Okay, you just go to... That's actually very easy, Board to Tears. Records of people's voter registration exist. You could go and look up people who have died of COVID-19. You get all the death certificates in the United States. Cause of death, COVID-19. You search them up. Then you get a spreadsheet of everybody, registered voters, and you match them up. And then I'm sure there's additional steps you have to do, but right off the bat, that's how I would do it. I could do it in like a couple weeks, is get the voter registration of everybody who has died from COVID-19. I could absolutely do that. There's already a paper with governor's political affiliation. Oh, yeah. Think of that, though. The old Republican fucks who have been running this stupid country for decades are dying by the hundreds of thousands. I unironically believe that COVID-19 may have affected the outcome in a lot of races in this country where people that would have voted Republican died. I unironically believe that that's the case. Here's one of the best publications on that subject. Partisan differences and physical distancing are linked to health outcomes during the COVID-19 pandemic. Political partisanship has been on the rise in the United States and across the world. People in the political minority are afraid to reveal their political identity. People view the opposing party more unfavorable than ever before. And partisan echo chambers abound both in person and online. Partisanship also substantially impacts behavior. For instance, people's choices of where to work, live, and shop are driven by political identity as much as they are by religion. Partisan attachments distort memory for political events, and political homophily is as influential as educational homophily in online dating. Furthermore, an estimated 81 million Americans reported arguing about politics with close friends and family after the 2016 election, and 34 million hours of Thanksgiving dinner conversation may have been lost to 2016 due to partisan differences between hosts and guests. In the current pandemic, epidemiologists and public health officials have strongly encouraged people to physically distance from one another. Numerous studies have shown that physical distancing effectively stopped the exponential spread of COVID-19 at its onset, preventing the inundation of healthcare providers and saving numerous lives. So this study's from November, This is out of date. To determine whether physical distancing offers a function of partisanship, we examined whether the political leading of over 3,000 counties in the United States is linked to the extent to which residents of those counties practice physical distancing behaviors during the first few months of the pandemic. Specifically, we analyzed the aggregated global positioning system coordinates of approximately 15 million people across the United States per day, tracked via smartphone location coordinates, to quantify the degree of physical distancing in each U.S. county. Physical distancing was measured in terms of reduction in general movement and reduction in visiting non-essential services. And the conclusion was... discussion. Where's conclusion? I don't care about the methods. Okay. God damn it. We found that partisanship is associated with differences in physical distancing behavior at the level of U.S. counties, and that this degree of physical distancing may have impacted counties' subsequent COVID-19 infection and fatality growth rates. This suggests that partisanship may be an important risk factor for the current pandemic and potentially for other public health crises. We encourage researchers who study other health issues to consider the role that partisanship may play in health-related decision-making. So which did they found? The observed partisan differences appear to be relatively strong as well as highly robust. Partisanship was more strongly associated with physical distancing than most of the covariates included in our models, including more traditionally examined health-related variables such as economic and social indicators. The relationship between partisanship and distancing also held after statistically adjusting for numerous control variables and for interactions between partisanship and these control variables. The robustness of these findings is consistent with findings from independent research groups who have also observed the links between partisanship and physical distancing using different data sources. The observed partisan gap in physical distancing was not limited to the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Although we had expected that this difference would attenuate as the pandemic worsened after March 23rd, 2020, we instead found that the partisan gap increased over time. We also expected that intervention by local government would attenuate the observed partisan differences. Again, instead, we found stay-at-home orders actually exacerbated the observed partisan gap. That is, stay-at-home orders appeared to be more successful encouraging Democratic counties to physically distance than Republican ones. This difference may be driven by more Republican-leading counties ignoring local stay-at-home orders in light of national messaging from right-wing media and federal leaders, or Republicans may simply hold a greater distrust of government than Democrats.
Pagas.
In our view, a more likely, albeit partial explanation for the observed results is media polarization or broadcasting effect. Republican-leading media outlets appear to have downplayed the dangers of the coronavirus as compared to more Democratic outlets. For instance, in early March, Fox News repeatedly claimed that the coronavirus was less dangerous than influenza, and even referred to other media reports as a hoax. Consistent with this messaging about COVID-19, we found that U.S. counties had consumed more Fox News than Democratic leading outlets, exhibited less physical distancing. These findings also remain significant when controlling for counties' partisanships in turn of 2016 voting. Wow. These results, along with self-reported data indicating similar findings and evidence indicating a causal link between Fox News viewership and decrease social distancing, suggesting that Republican-leading media downplaying the virus at the start of the pandemic may have signaled to Republicans that they should not take this virus very seriously, in turn, potentially causing the observed partisan differences. I mean, we knew this, but it's in nature. It's in nature. This is basically evidence that Fox News and Breitbart, etc., killed hundreds of thousands of people. It's a scientific fact that Luke Letlow was probably killed by Fox News. And the most frightening part of all this, chat, to me, and a conclusion to this, the most frightening part of this and the conclusion to this is that none of them care. None of them care. They absolutely will kill themselves from Fox News, but the mind virus of Fox News is so powerful that they won't even stop watching Fox News. There's going to be no accountability. There is no data penetrating this epistemic bubble. And the liberals and the Democrats aren't out there saying anything different. This is the strongest death cult that has got to be going back to ancient times. Mike is probably on Cloud 9 today after Twitch superstar Jank Yuger read his live chat on air last night. That's right.
Hey Mike, I am Bach Rose and Antifa story Fox News STOCASTICLY murdering people. Since 1996 Fox.
Wow. So all in all, a 41-year Republican congressional elect has been killed by COVID-19. And Fox News and Republican media are killing hundreds of thousands more. The only downside to this, besides just the loss of all life, which we should all respect, is that viruses don't discriminate based on partisanship. So yes, it's much more likely that if you're a Republican, you're going to do something dumb and spread the disease. But when you do something dumb, you spread the disease to your children that you forced to go to Christmas. You spread the disease to the people that you walk by while you refuse to wear a mask, to the poor working class people that are forced to serve you at restaurants because there's no COVID-19 relief, so they have to work. You spread that disease to your Starbucks barista who's wearing a mask, wearing gloves, scrubbing every surface, trying their best to survive, who believes in COVID. You spread that disease to them. And then they spread that disease to their grandma or their grandpa, killing them. Diseases don't discriminate by partisanship. As dumb as this Luke Letlow was, he goes and he visits with a bunch of Republicans who then go home and back to the 55 plus community they live in. And then they spread COVID to all the Democratic old ladies and old men. That's the disgusting part of all of this. Is as much as I want to laugh and say, haha, he got his comeuppance. And trust me, I have that urge. I think about all the innocent people that they go and spread this disease to. The people who do the right thing, who listen to the doctors, who listens to science, who have been social distancing. I've been social distancing since March. No trips. Not visiting friends. Not hanging out with people. Luckily, I've had my stream. Luckily, I've had my stream. If I didn't have my stream, I probably would have lost my mind. And this is, here we are, December 29th. And this will close the COVID-19 for today. I hope we don't have to talk about it anymore. But, I mean, we will. 3,500 people died yesterday. 3,500 people died yesterday. If you want an idea of how insane this, total people killed by drunk drivers per year. Just 10,000 people, 10,500 people are killed per year from drunk driving. 3,500 from COVID in one day. How many of you have been propagandized nonstop about the dangers of drunk driving? How many of you never drunk drive because of how important it is to you? In 3 or 4 days, COVID kills more than a year of drunk driving. Does that make it make sense to you yet? What is it gonna take? I don't know. I don't know, because I can tell you, I talk to a lot of people don't take this shit seriously. A lot of people. And I don't know what it is. We're now... And it's just, I'm just so tired of it, man. We have a vaccine. Just stay at home. Stay at home for 3, 4, 5 more months and it'll be fine. It's not worth dying for. Getting a shitty, piss warm American light beer is not worth it. All right. Okay, Chad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I apologize for that. I was on a rant there. If we stay home, whose blood is going to grease the wheels of the machine? My brother didn't believe it's a big deal and have been making me feel bad for trying to poke holes in my logic behind not celebrating the holidays. Well, tell him what I just said about drunk driving. Ask your family if drunk driving is serious. Then say 3,500 people died from COVID yesterday. 10,000 people die per year from drunk driving. Do you get it? 3 days of COVID kills more than all the drunk driving in a whole year. Do you get it now? (2019) leading causes of death. Cancer killed 600,000. All cancer was 600,000. All heart attacks was 655,000. All diabetes was 85,000. All influenza and pneumonia was only 60,000. Suicide was only 48,000. We're nearing 400,000. And people don't want to take this fucking seriously.
That's praxis.
Cut the strings. Thanks for gifting a tier 1. Normies find the time to ask questions about McGrath and McConnell. Okay, hold on. Let me answer this question. I'll tell you what happened. The voters of Kentucky took one look at McGrath and they saw someone who had nothing in common with them, and they voted for Mitch McConnell. That's what happened. And they found it pathetic that she said she would work with Trump more than Mitch McConnell. And you know what? I believe her. All right, let's move on to something else that's a little bit more funny. A little bit. Oh, wait. Let's just get this story out of the way. The new COVID, the UK variant of COVID has just been discovered in Colorado.
Colorado have confirmed the first known case of a more infectious COVID-19 variant, which has ravaged the UK. The case involves a male in his 20s. According to Governor Jared Polis, the patient is currently in isolation in Elbert County. He has no travel history. Officials say they're working to identify any other potential cases and contacts in the state. This strain of COVID-19, called B.1.1.7, is understood to be significantly more contagious, but there's no evidence it's more severe or deadly. For more, I'm joined by Dan Diamond. He's a healthcare reporter for Politico. He's also co-authors the Political Pulse newsletter. Well, Dan, according to the Colorado governor, patient has no travel history. So what does this tell us about the strain's transmission? And
what it means is it's already all over the United States of America. We only sequence about 1% of cases, which means, what does that mean? Is we don't even know, we just know that you have COVID. We don't know what strain of COVID you have. We don't go and look at the DNA. Other countries, they look at 10, 20, 30% of all the COVID cases and they try to find out exactly what strain. The US, we don't care about the strain. So the fact is that this person with no travel, that means that it's so widespread it might not even be the UK COVID. Maybe it's America COVID.
And its ability to get out there.
Well, Omar, I think what it tells us is what was expected. The virus that is now spreading, this mutated virus, it was a matter of when, not if, it made its way to the United States. And the fact that one man in Colorado has been diagnosed with this, the reality is there are probably many cases that have not been picked up yet. So this virus, this version of the virus, is probably already here. We don't believe, based on current information, that it makes people any sicker, just that it makes it more likely for the virus. I know
about the documentary, Chad. It's just an hour long,
Scientists
and I don't want to
moving a little bit faster. It seems Pfizer and Moderna have been testing their vaccines against this new strain. Do we know any of those results yet?
Well, I think at this point, the hope is that the vaccines that are already available, the two that you mentioned, Moderna, Pfizer, which rely on this RNA technology, that they will be effective against this mutation of the virus. And new vaccine types are potentially coming online in coming months, which could give more flexibility if the virus continues to mutate, Omar.
Meantime, vaccine maker Novavax announced that it will enter phase 3 of the trial for its COVID vaccine. It'll be the 5th one to reach the final stage of testing. When might we see some of these new vaccines deployed? Do we have a time frame yet?
So I think the Novavax vaccine, which is now going into phase 3 here in the U.S., that's still many months away. Phase 3, in contrast for Moderna and Pfizer, phase 3 was last summer for them. So it takes a while to accumulate the evidence and results, but it's still promising. The early results from the Novavax vaccine sound good. It is a different kind of vaccine. It's not RNA-based. This is a vaccine technology that's more traditional. It's the same kind of vaccine technology that's been used to fight shingles, hepatitis, so it's got more of a proven track record. But the expectation is that perhaps in Q1, Q2 of next year, the Novavax vaccine might be able to similarly get emergency authorization from regulators and be rolled out as yet another tool to contain COVID-19.
You kind of touched on it slightly there, but how does the Novavax shot differ from the other ones from Pfizer and Moderna? And also, how important is access to different types of vaccines to get this virus under control?
So those are both good questions. Let's take them in reverse. The idea that there are going to be different vaccines developed and appearing, not just in the United States, but across the world, that is very deliberate by senior officials. The Operation Warp Speed initiative here in the United States deliberately chose different kinds of technologies, different kinds of vaccines, just in case some were more effective than others. And Moncef Slaoui, the senior official who's done a lot of that choosing, has defended the decision not to say go all in on the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine because they wanted to have that range of response. Now, the Novavax vaccine is different. It relies more on mimicking the technology or mimicking the antigen on the surface of the virus. So again, this is something that has been used in the past.
COVID is going to be like the flu from now on, basically. It will keep mutating. God, that would be absolutely... Well, see, okay, that would be absolutely disastrous. That would be absolutely disastrous. COVID is so much more dangerous than the flu. It's not even funny. Like, and it causes permanent problems, like brain fog, and like you lose the sense of smell and taste. It causes strokes. It causes loss of lung function. It is not something you want to fuck with, man.
Past the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, these are RNA vaccines. They're breakthrough, cutting edge. We don't have as much of a track record for how those vaccines will work over time, though the early evidence is quite promising.
CDC also says more than 11 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine have been shipped in the U.S., but only about 2 million people have been vaccinated. At significant.
So this is a story I wanted to talk to you about. Listen to this stupidity. Our governors and our leaders are being precious about these vaccines. Just start handing them out. Put a website portal up saying, register for your COVID-19 vaccine. You get your COVID-19 vaccine at this date, at this time, at this location. Let me register. Let me get my fucking ticket. And let me show up and get them stuck. Stop waiting to be precious.
For how those vaccines will work over time, though the early evidence is quite promising.
CDC also says more than 11 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine have been shipped in the U.S.
11 million doses have been shipped, but only 2 million have been given out.
Only about 2 million people have been vaccinated.
What?
At significantly less than the Trump administration for what they promised by the end of the year. What's causing some of these delays? Is it shipping? Is it actual administering of the vaccines?
Omar, I think it's all of the above. There was always a fear that this last mile, getting the vaccine from shelves into shoulders, essentially, that was going to be incredibly hard, especially at the beginning. One challenge is logistics. The vaccines that are already available, Pfizer, Moderna, require freezers, in some cases very cold freezers. The Novavax vaccine that we were just talking about does not require that kind of freezer, so that's another difference. But there needs to be a lot of back-end work to just get the vaccine out to people to administer it, and that took some time, and some mistakes were made, as senior officials have acknowledged, in terms of how many doses would be available. There's also a lot of leeway allotted to local officials. In some states, there have been more organized protocols around making the vaccine available. I saw a report from Florida today that was really concerning about seniors being told to line up first come, first serve for the vaccine. That's not particularly orderly, and that could contribute to problems too.
Yeah, it could spread the disease if everybody's standing. Oh, I'm not feeling too good. I better go get that COVID-19 vaccine. And then you start spewing it to everybody around you, causing an outbreak. Why don't we have COVID-19 home delivery where we just hire 100,000 nurses to go in vans and just go door to door and just stick people with fucking vaccines? Like, why don't we create a massive organization that just goes around and sticks people? I mean, I guess you have to some of these, like the Pfizer one has to be like the on dry ice, so that one is not practical. But the Moderna one, that could be in a regular refrigerator. Why aren't we doing shit like this? Who paid for it though? Yeah, okay, great.
So
great point. Great fucking point.
That were expected. I think there have been more than anticipated. And in defense of the Trump administration, they would say that the number of doses that have been administered is probably an undercount. The actual number is higher than the 2 million or so that CDC said today have been administered so far.
And Dan, you've spent a lot of time reporting on the Trump administration's pandemic response. On Tuesday afternoon, President-elect Biden criticized the slow rollout of vaccines and promised to speed things up. You just mentioned there's a lot involved in shoulder to shoulder. Did the president-elect give any specifics on what he wants to do to speed things up?
You know, I've spent so much time covering the Trump administration. I'm trying to shift my brain to now cover the incoming Biden team. But the idea that the Biden team has is they're going to try and build on whatever they thought was working from the Trump folks and then come up with new initiatives. I spoke today with the coronavirus coordinator who's coming in, Jeff Zients. They have named a vaccine coordinator, Bashar Chusser. He is the former Chicago Public Health Commissioner. He's also someone who works at Kaiser Permanente, which is a major health system with a foothold all across the country. The belief from the Biden team is that by having...
Who's going to pay for it? I have a dumbass relative that refuses to get a COVID test for that reason. You know who's going to pay for it? The same person that pays for a fucking $1 trillion of worthless defense spending every year. And they could defend us for shit.
Having people in roles like vaccine coordinator, it will streamline who's making decisions, have one point person. President-elect Biden also talked about rolling out mobile units in hard-to-reach communities that would help administer the vaccine.
Hey, look, mobile units. I'm a genius.
Set up vaccination sites around the country and also build on things like the Defense Production Act, if needed, to boost supplies as the pandemic continues to worsen.
Professionals talk logistics, and there's a lot of logistics that you've been covering here. Dan Diamond, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Omar.